Let's see how it copes. No, didn't like that at all. So I'm going to use Autopilot as much as I can on this trip. Coming out of my house onto the main road, we're in the village and there's no steering wheel showing, so at the moment no Autopilot. Let's see when it actually tells me that I can do. Okay, I'm going straight onto Autopilot because it's just given it me. So we'll set a maximum speed of 55 for this bit. There are a couple of bends. It'll be interesting to see how we cope. I actually set it to 50. No more than 50 around this bend, I'd say. Yeah, that's fine. So there's no white line at all on the left hand side of the road, nothing. So there's a centre line and you've got the edge of the grass, and the car is quite happily going along and following that. So we've got a junction coming up at the end of the road in not very long now, so I'm actually going to just disengage, and then I'm still feet off and I'm letting regenerative braking slow me down, although I am now on the throttle pedal to slow down a little slower, which took a bit of getting used to in this car, that you have to go onto the throttle pedal to affect the amount of braking that you're getting, but that's just the reality. So straight back onto Autopilot, set the speed. I'm only going to set it to 45 and I'm going to slow it back down again in a minute, and you're going to see why, because there's a couple of bends along here which actually are a bit tight. So you can see the sign warning you of twisty roads. Still doing 45. I'm actually going to slow it back to 40 just for comfort. Let's see how it copes. No, didn't like that at all. It came off. 40's fine going around here, genuinely, absolutely fine. It's giving it me back, so let's put it back on. So that wasn't so much that I was going too fast for the bend, that's, I think that the steering angle was faster than it was willing to do. Okay, we can speed up now. So all I'm doing is using the right thumb wheel on the steering wheel to change my speed. I'm not doing anything with the pedals, nothing at all. Feet are completely off, and let the car drive itself. Slow to 50 for this one, then back to 55. And that's all I'm going to do basically, is a quick flick with the thumb on the right hand scroll wheel changes my speed. So I think again I'm going to slow to 50 for this one. Let's see what it does. 50's fine around here. That's gone really well. So there's no white line on the left hand side. So it just said Autosteer Limited, be prepared to take over. Well, don't worry, my hands are on the wheel. I really do think that it's turning angle that it doesn't like. Otherwise, we're going along here and it is keeping me mostly in the centre of the lane while we go around these bends. Here is the tarmac's quite wide and it's hugged the centre line a little bit more maybe than I would have done. But other than that, still going, still doing 50. You can do 55 around this, so let's go to 55. Again, it's doing a decent job of keeping me in the centre of the lane as it goes around here. So the car must be reading the line of the grass and a few puddles as the left hand side of the lane that it's keeping me in. This is good. Okay, let's go to 60. It's just flashing up blue here because it says your hands aren't on the steering wheel. My hands are on the steering wheel, as you can see. I'm holding it at all times. It's the amount of resistance that it feels when it's adjusting it that makes you think that you're not there. So you just have to be mindful of that at times. You can't just have your hand resting loosely, you actually have to be applying a little bit of pressure, otherwise it starts complaining. Other than that, we're doing rather well. It seems reasonably planted along this road. I mean, it's a little bit bumpy in places, but that's the road rather than anything else, and Autopilot is coping with it quite nicely, thank you very much. Apply turning force, I am doing. Okay, we'll drop to 55, just because it sweeps up here to the right, and then there's a double junction. So 55 is nice and comfortable to go around here. Again, I am ready to take over if I need to, but I'm not feeling really the need to do so. It's maybe a little bit twitchy left and right at times, but not significantly twitchy. Again, 55 is absolutely fine along here. I am covering the brake pedal with my foot just in case somebody comes flying up and out of these two junctions. No, there's nothing, so we'll maintain 55. Again, the car is doing a really good job of steering around this bend, and it is a sweeper. And it's a beautiful day. So every now and then, when you're going around a bend, and a few bends back, there was a left-hand sweeper and there was a car coming the other way, I get a little bit nervous on the way up to it, basically just because if it starts drifting me out to the edge of the lane, and the guy coming the other way, drop to 50 for the speed limit coming up here through Cruddy. But yeah, if it pushes you to the outside of the lane, then you really don't want that if the guy coming the other way is moving across as well. So I get a little nervous at a few of those, but otherwise it's okay. So, oh, phantom braking. Ah, right. So what it's just done there, we've just gone past. This is an issue with Autopilot. It's now saying the speed limit is 20 miles an hour. It isn't. It's 50 miles an hour. But what you've got is a switchable 20 mile an hour speed limit. Go back on. 20 miles an hour speed limit when the school is open and parents are coming to either drop their children off or pick them up again. You get what's basically a variable speed limit. It flashes yellow. So the speed limit is in a black rectangle, and the black rectangle tells you that it's for information. So legally it's not valid unless the lights are flashing, but of course Tesla's software isn't smart enough to understand that. There's been quite a few of these where it either reads the advisory, well, the speed limit for trucks, which is 50 miles an hour in Scotland, or it reads the countdown markers. So this is quite a sweeping bend and we're doing 55. It says Autosteer Limited, but it's doing fine. But yeah, it's reading the countdown markers before, say, a 30 miles an hour limit, and it thinks the speed limit has changed immediately. So there are some software issues with Autopilot, which I'm sure they're working on. Come on, Elon, get it sorted. Otherwise, we're doing rather well. Still doing 55, still sat in the middle of the lane. This feels quite comfortable. As you can see, some of the bends are tighter than others. Some of them tighten up mid-apex. This is just a long sweeper. If I was driving the car manually, I could go faster than 55, so I could take it up to the 60 miles an hour speed limit. But you'd always be easing off and then going a little bit further forward. So I think the thing, especially with Autopilot, is finding a balancing speed where you're happy to go along at that speed around the bends and you're not being held up too much. So apart from the twisty bit just as we came onto this A98 road, it's been absolutely fine doing 50 to 55. I am going to go to 60 now because it goes straighter. There is a bit of a sweeping left-hander at the bottom, but it's nothing dramatic. So you can definitely do 60 around this, but I'm on the steering wheel just in case, and there's cars coming the other way. No, it's fine. Because I was worried, and I said I'm a little nervous about some of these, but it was absolutely fine. It knew exactly where it was going and it felt nicely planted. So if you're not in a particular hurry and the road isn't dramatically twisty, I think what this is telling me is that you can use Autopilot on it. And look, I have to confess, I have used Autopilot briefly on here as a test, but I wasn't happy doing it all the way. So I'm dropping to 55 just because this bend is a little bit tighter than the other one. Again, it's a sweeping right-hand bend, and the car has picked a really good line through it. I just felt a slight little bit of readjustment there mid-corner, but otherwise it's okay. We'll go back to 60. It's still telling me oh no, that was saying speed restricted to 60 on Autopilot. Well, I know that. I wasn't asking it to go any faster. So a right-left-right sequence there, and it was absolutely fine. Here again, it's going right-left. Not a problem. I'm not sure I'd want to have it on Autopilot all the time on this kind of road, but it's interesting to see how it copes, because I really wasn't sure how it would cope, and mostly it's doing really well. Flashing blue at me again. So there's no lines at all because it's been resurfaced and they haven't repainted them, and yet I've got solid blue on the screen and it's quite happy. Drop to 55 because that, yeah, that tightens up. It wouldn't have liked that at 60. It's just said then Autosteer Limited. Again, no lines at all. There's no line on the left, there's no line in the centre, but the car is quite happy, still reading the contours of the road and where a lane would be, and I've still got two good blue lines. Okay, nervous. I took over. I'm not letting it steer me through there with cars coming the other way without a line for it to reference. I'm just not that brave. I'm sure it would have been fine, but I'm not doing it. Okay, we need to drop to 50, which I'm doing now, and then 45 because this bend's quite tight. Let's see how it copes. Autosteer Limited, but it's still steering. Oop, it braked me round there. So there you go. I was going a little bit too fast for it. It didn't like it and it braked. But that's okay. I probably have gone a bit slower. This is a 40 mile an hour bend, so I'm going to drop it further, but this is tight. So let's see how it copes. Autosteer Limited, but it's still steering. And again, and it's still steering. That was okay. So I'll run it back to 50, which is the speed limit through this section. Look at the view. 45. I had to take over then. That was too fast. But just look at this view as you come over. This is called Longman Hill, and it's a brilliant name for a settlement. This is gorgeous. And we are 2 miles east of Macduff on the north coast of Aberdeenshire. And look at it. So the speed limit has just changed to 60, but I'm leaving it at 45 because there's bends here. In fact, I'm going to drop to 40. This is tight. Let's see how it copes. Oh, that's fine. And it says Autosteer Limited, but at least it is steering. Go back to 45. And then there's another one here, which is reasonably tight. Yeah, it's steering. It braked a little bit, but it went. So we'll go all the way back to 60 now. And as we come off the bend, it starts accelerating. So the software is obviously reading the fact that there's a bend. and that it needs to slow down more. So it does apply braking where it needs to. It didn't disengage itself. And I think the reality is that on the bits where I was a bit nervous Nelly, and if I'd left it, it would probably have been okay. So we're going to drop to 55 because this is quite a sweeper, and see what it does. Actually to 50. 55 is okay. Back to 60. Again, I'm just using the right hand thumb scroll wheel to change the speed. I am on the steering wheel, stop flashing blue. So we're coming down into Macduff now, so I'm going to slow us down. 55, 50. Yeah, it's again, it said Autosteer Limited, but it made it round that bend. That was okay at 50. And then in a minute we're going to drop to 30 as we enter the town. And again, I'm just going to slow it down. 45. Let's ease it back. Now pull it all the way back to, I think it'll change itself. So it's saying 60. Yeah, it's changed itself to 30. So you don't actually have to change the speed at all. If you're on autopilot and the speed limit changes, as we saw with the speed limit where it was reading for the school, it will slow itself down. So I didn't need to pull it back. What a golf course that is. We've got some really big ships out at anchor waiting to come into the harbour. So it's still on autopilot, and we are in, frankly, a residential area now. There's parked cars on this side, on the other side, sorry, there's nothing on my side yet, but there will be shortly. So I'm going to knock it off now because it's not safe to carry on with autopilot. Oh, and the symbol has gone, so yes, it also knows it's not safe anymore. So I hope you found that interesting. I certainly did. That is how much you can drive on autopilot on single carriageway roads with twists that are on motorway. Please like and subscribe. I've got loads more videos like this in the pipeline. I've got lots more interesting things that I want to test about the car, about the software that drives it, how it goes. So please stick around on the channel. Tell me what you think. Tell me what roads you've used autopilot on and how you've got on with it. And then if there's something interesting for me to try based on that, I'll go out and do it. Until then, I will see you soon.